standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face, he will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand. Forget not the humble. Wherefore doth the wicked contemn God? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Thou hast seen it. For thou beholdest mischief and spite to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear. To judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved. I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face, he will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand. Forget not the humble. Wherefore doth the wicked contempt God? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Thou hast seen, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. The Lord is King forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. Though thou hast heard the desire of the humble.
All right, so we're diving deep today, huh?
That's right.
Deep into Psalm 10.
Yeah.
This is it's a powerful psalm.
Mm-hmm.
It wrestles with a question for the ages, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Why do bad things happen to good people?
Right.
Why does it seem like the wicked prosper while the good suffer?
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a lot of really interesting sources that we've gathered together for this deep dive.
We do.
To really kind of break it apart and figure out what it has to say to us.
Yep.
Thousands of years after it was written.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some great scholarly analysis. We've got some historical context and even, some personal reflections that I think are going to be really insightful.
Yeah, for sure. So what's our mission, I guess, is the question. Right?
Yeah, I think our mission is to really figure out what this ancient psalm can teach us about dealing with injustice.
Oh, yeah.
And suffering in our own lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, everybody experiences these things.
Absolutely. It's a universal experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So what strikes me right off the bat, one of the things that always gets me about Psalm 10 is just this rawness.
Oh, yeah.
And the honesty of it. It's like the psalmist is not holding anything back, right?
Absolutely. There's no pretense there.
Yeah.
It's raw emotion.
Yeah. It's like this desperate cry for help, right? It's almost like this feeling of abandonment by God.
Yeah.
That really comes through.
Yeah, it's a feeling of being lost and alone.
Yeah, it's almost like, God, where are you when I need you most? That kind of thing. And then it paints this incredibly vivid picture of the wicked.
Yes.
They're arrogant, they're boastful, they're preying on the vulnerable.
Yes, they're
just awful people.
Taking advantage of people.
Yeah. And there's one detail that always gets me. It says that they puff at their enemies.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that word, that image?
Well, it's such a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you can almost visualize it, right? Like they're trying to just blow them away with a breath. Like they're insignificant.
Right, like they're nothing. Yeah. Like just a puff of air,
Yeah.
And they're gone.
Exactly. And I think it speaks to that arrogance, right? That the wicked have, where they're so blinded by their own sense of power that they lose sight of, the bigger picture.
Yeah, for sure.
And they lose sight of God.
Yeah. And it makes you think too. It makes you kind of turn that mirror inward, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Like do we ever puff at other people?
Right.
Maybe in more subtle ways.
Oh, yeah. All the time, probably. Yeah, more than we realize.
Yeah. Maybe dismissing someone's opinion, or just not even listening to them.
Right.
Because we think that we know better.
Yeah.
It's really challenging.
It is.
To look at ourselves.
Yeah.
That way, I think.
It's a challenge to examine our own
yeah.
attitudes and actions.
Yeah. So the song goes on to describe the tactics of the wicked, right?
Right.
And it talks about how they're cunning, they're hiding in the shadows, they're waiting to pounce.
Yeah, like a lion stalking its prey.
Yeah. And it creates this chilling atmosphere of fear and danger. You really get a sense of just how vulnerable the innocent are.
Absolutely. And it's like they thrive on that vulnerability of others, right?
Oh.
They seek out those lurking places.
Oh, that's great.
Those spaces where people feel the most exposed and defenseless.
Yeah.
And sadly, we still see that played out today.
Absolutely.
In different ways.
Yeah.
Whether it's, online harassment.
Oh, yeah.
Or, systems that exploit those who are already marginalized,
Yeah. And it really just breaks your heart. When you think about it in those terms, and you can really feel the psalmist's own, fear and vulnerability as he's crying out to God.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's interesting to me is how this psalm doesn't shy away from doubt at all.
No.
Like the psalmist actually questions God.
He does.
Yeah. He's like, have you forgotten me? Are you turning a blind eye to this injustice?
Yeah. And I think that's what makes it so relatable.
Yeah.
Even thousands of years later, right?
Yeah.
Because it acknowledges that faith isn't always easy.
It's not. No.
There are moments when we all struggle to make sense of suffering.
Yeah.
When we question God's presence.
Yes, absolutely.
In our lives.
Yeah. And that's I think where the real power of this psalm lies, is that it doesn't offer easy answers, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't offer platitudes.
Doesn't sugarcoat it.
No. Instead, it gives us permission to wrestle with our doubts and our fears.
Yeah. Yeah.
To bring them honestly before God.
Absolutely. Yeah. To be authentic in our relationship with God.
Yeah. And I think that's such a healthy way to approach faith.
I agree.
And it's something that we don't always see modeled for us.
Right. But ultimately, I think, even in his despair, the psalmist still turns to God for help. And his cry becomes a plea for justice, a call for God to intervene and protect the vulnerable.
Yeah. And there's this powerful image that he uses of God lifting up his hand.
Yes.
It's a symbol of both judgment and protection.
It is.
At the same time.
Yeah, it's a powerful image of God's power.
Yeah. It's like even when he doubts, he still has this sliver of hope that he's clinging to, right?
Yeah.
He's remembering that God is ultimately in control.
Right. That God is still on the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the tone of the psalm starts to shift a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Start to see this glimmer of hope emerging.
Yeah.
The psalmist expresses confidence that God does hear the cries of the oppressed.
Yes. And that's so important, right?
Yeah.
Because it's that reminder that even when we feel alone, God is still there.
Yeah.
God is still listening.
Yeah. And he ends the psalm with this beautiful affirmation of faith.
He does.
Right. He says, "The Lord is king forever and ever. Lord, you have heard the desire of the humble. You will prepare their heart. You will cause your ear to hear."
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's like he's reminding himself and he's reminding us, right? That even in the darkest moments, God is still present.
Absolutely.
He's still listening.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful message to hold on to.
It is.
Especially when we're facing our own struggles with injustice and suffering.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me wonder, how do we cultivate that kind of hope in our own lives?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think it's a question that we're all still grappling with. But what Psalm 10 reminds us is that we're not alone in that struggle.
Right. Yeah.
We can bring our doubts, our fears, our anger, our despair to God.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, in the process, we'll begin to hear his voice speaking to us in new and unexpected ways.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that's a great place to end our deep dive for today. So thanks for joining me.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you next time.
All right, bye.
Bye.